Hi, good morning. My name is Tim Grant. I'm the Green Party's Urban Affairs and Housing Critic, speaking to you from downtown Toronto in my University Rosedale riding. Your first question, it's my pleasure to respond to your questions, the first of which is related to what the federal government can do to improve and increase home ownership, supports for home ownership. In this election, we actually think that's the wrong question, because we have, Canada's one of the highest rates of home ownership in the world already, but we have a huge crisis in affordability, affordable housing, and a lack of rental housing to meet that objective. So we have pivoted our housing policy. We would not support a home buyer's grant, for example, for first-time home buyers. And so I'm going to say, instead of answering your question directly, I'm going to sort of talk a little bit about what we would do to support rental housing. We think it's time to have a minister of housing. The crisis is urgent enough, and that minister essentially would oversee a national affordable housing program and work with the provinces to deliver the tens, if not hundreds of thousands of new affordable units we need annually over the next 10 years. Our own plan is to support 25,000 new affordable units and rehabilitate 15,000 affordable units every year for 10 years. In addition to that, we also see it's time to start a national housing co-investment fund that with an additional $750 million grant money for new builds. We would support a Canada co-op housing strategy rather that would improve the financing and opportunities for co-op organizations to build new housing. They've been really shut out of the game for 30 to 40 years now. Since the federal government left the rental housing market. So those are a couple of things that separate us from the other parties. We think it's entirely the mechanisms of the federal government should all go towards rental housing. And I'll give you another final example. CMHC currently has been, for the last couple of decades, focused on supporting home ownership for new first-time buyers by de-risking the investment and the insurance aspects of that first-time purchase. And we think that's the wrong mandate for the CMHC. We need them to pivot towards rental housing in some of the ways I've just described. Your second question is about how does housing respond to climate change, and what are our policies that address that. For us, as the only party that has a plan that actually meets the new international targets on climate change, housing retrofits are a major part of the answer of how we're going to bring our emissions down 60% in the next 11 years. We see the import of a massive retrofit of residential, commercial, and institutional buildings across Canada in the next decade. It's a pretty ambitious program. But we think it's important we need to get as many buildings as possible down to net zero or as close as we possibly can. So in that sense, we would exceed the targets that the Canadian Home Builders Association is looking at with a national building code and an inner guide for homes, much as those are laudable investments. I think the urgency of climate change suggests that we need to go much further. Let me give you a couple of other examples, and I should just say that unlike the other parties whose videos you'll be sharing with Canadians, we are also the only party whose platform has been costed by and released. No other party has done that, had their party publicly vetted by the Parliamentary Budget Officer. But ours has, and we've passed that test, and that confirms that we can meet the goals. We have the financial means in our platform to meet these housing goals. So back to housing and affordability and climate change. One of the things we've argued for many times, both at the provincial and federal level, is that no grants should be given to municipalities for rapid transit projects unless we're building enough housing around each major transit stop, whether that's a subway station or an LRT stop, because we need to ensure that enough Canadians, there's a walkable community around each stop where people don't have to own a car. That's a key part of affordability for housing. And secondly, that it creates vibrant communities where people have access to doctor's appointments, libraries, and so forth. But more importantly, it allows that ensures that the transit system, that new transit system, is going to be able to pay for itself once it opens.